A cold early morning in a quiet mountain town where the air is always fresh and the roads stay almost empty. The local wildlife vet had just started his day, planning to check on a few rescued animals at his small clinic. His mornings were usually calm, but on this day, his peace was broken by a sudden call from the forest rangers. One of the rangers sounded breathless, like he had been running or shouting just before dialing. He told the vet that they had found something unusual deep in the forest. At first, the vet thought it was another injured deer, maybe a fox caught in a trap, or some wild bird tangled in branches. But the ranger's voice held a tone he had never heard before. Something between fear and disbelief. The ranger explained that the creature they found was huge, far larger than any animal normally seen in the area. He also said that every ranger on duty was keeping their distance because the creature was still alive and known as one of the most feared beings in the mountains. The locals had whispered stories about it for years, calling it the mountain beast, even though the name sounded like a legend. The vet knew that most legends come from something real. He packed his medical kit quickly, grabbed warm clothes, and headed out. The journey to the forest was not easy. The roads were rough, covered with layers of fallen leaves, and the sky slowly filled with heavy clouds. The vet kept thinking about the urgency in the ranger's voice. If they were this alarmed, then whatever they had found must be serious. And dangerous. When he reached the ranger checkpoint, he saw a group of rangers standing together, speaking in low voices. They all fell silent when he stepped out of his vehicle. One ranger pointed toward a narrow trail that led deeper into the woods. The vet noticed the uneasiness in their body. Language people who had spent years in the forest were now acting cautious, almost nervous. That alone told him how unusual this situation was. They guided him down the trail until they reached a small clearing covered with moss and scattered stones. There on the ground, lying still but breathing heavily, was the creature. At first glance, it looked like a massive wolf, but not the kind seen in regular wildlife. This one was larger, with thick fur that looked matted from rain and dirt. Even in its weak state, the creature gave off a strong presence. Its eyes were half open, watching everyone. Instead of the sharp and wild glare one might expect from such a beast, its eyes held exhaustion, pain, and a surprising sense of understanding. The vet slowly approached while the rangers held their position behind him with caution. One ranger whispered, warning him to be careful because the beast had a history of chasing away anything that came too close. But the vet didn't step back. He knelt down at a safe distance first, observing the creature's breathing, its posture, and the wounds on its body. Although he didn't move too fast, he didn't freeze either. Working with animals had taught him that they often react to energy, and he wanted to show calmness. The beast let out a low sound, not a roar or a warning growl, but more like a deep breath mixed with discomfort. For a moment, it lifted its head slightly, as if trying to judge whether this human was a threat or a helper. The vet held his ground gently, speaking in a soft tone, the way he always did with scared animals. He didn't know if the creature could understand him, but he spoke anyway, hoping his voice alone would communicate safety. When he finally moved a little closer, the beast didn't attempt to bite or attack. Its eyes followed his hands closely, but it didn't show hostility. This surprised everyone, especially the rangers. They had expected the creature to snap or lash out. Instead, it seemed almost relieved that someone was there to help. The vet could see that the creature was badly hurt. Its body showed signs of deep injuries, but he didn't comment on them to the rangers because he didn't want to create fear. Instead, he focused on what he could do in that moment: help the animal survive. Since moving it was too risky, he decided to set up a temporary treatment space right there. He asked the rangers to bring blankets, clean water, and a few tools from his vehicle. They moved quickly, but even then, everyone kept glancing nervously at the giant wolf-like creature. Some rangers whispered among themselves about how this might be the first time anyone had ever touched or treated the so-called mountain beast. Once everything was ready, the vet slowly reached toward the creature. For a moment, the beast tensed and the rangers stiffened, expecting something bad. But instead of attacking, the creature simply let out a soft, tired breath, as if accepting whatever happened next. The vet worked carefully, removing dirt from the wounds and cleaning the areas he could reach without causing more stress. He noticed that the creature had likely been injured by humans, maybe traps or something similar. He didn't say it aloud, but it made him feel quietly disappointed. He had spent years trying to protect wildlife, and yet some people still treated the forest like a hunting ground while he cleaned the wounds. He kept talking in his calm, steady voice. He explained each movement, even though the creature couldn't reply. And strangely, it listened. Whenever he changed tools or applied pressure, the beast watched him closely, but it didn't show aggression. It was as if it understood that he was there to help, not harm. Time passed slowly. The forest grew quieter, and even the wind seemed to calm down. The rangers eventually relaxed slightly, surprised at the peaceful interaction happening in front of them. One ranger whispered something about how unbelievable it was to see the beast allowing a human to get so close. The vet continued working without rushing. He knew that the creature's survival depended on patience. Every movement had to be gentle, every touch measured. There was no room for mistakes. As he worked, he could feel the beast's breath warming his hands. It was a strange feeling standing so close to something so powerful, yet so vulnerable. Most people would have felt fear, but what the vet felt was a mixture of responsibility and compassion. He had treated animals of all sizes, but something about this creature felt different. It was wild, dangerous, and yet somehow trusting him completely in this moment. After some time, he realized he had done as much as he could for now. The creature needed rest and ongoing care. Standing up slowly, he stepped back to give it space. The beast lifted its head a little, looking directly at him with eyes that seemed less pained and more aware. There was something almost human in the way it looked at him, a silent message that needed no words. The rangers gathered around the vet, asking if the creature would survive. He explained that the next few days were important and that he would need to stay nearby to monitor its condition. Although the rangers were hesitant about leaving him alone with such a creature, they agreed to support him with supplies and check-ins. As the sky darkened and evening approached, the vet stayed by the creature's side with a small lantern glowing softly beside him. The forest felt different now, almost protective. The beast rested quietly, breathing slowly but steadily. The vet didn't know what the future held. But one thing was clear. This moment was the beginning of an unexpected connection between a human and a creature most people feared. It was the first step in a story that neither of them could have imagined. A story built not on fear, but on trust. And as the night settled in, the vet felt a quiet certainty inside him. He was meant to find this creature today, and he was meant to save it. Continues from the moment the vet decided to stay near the injured beast. The night had passed slowly, filled with the soft sounds of the forest, the distant call of an owl, the rustling of leaves, and the steady breathing of the huge creature lying just a few feet away. The vet barely slept. Every time the beast shifted or let out a heavy breath, he opened his eyes to make sure it wasn't getting worse. He wasn't scared, but he knew this was unlike anything he had ever taken responsibility for. It wasn't just an animal. It was a creature that carried the weight of mountain legends. As the early morning light crawled through the trees, the vet stretched his tired back and checked the creature again. Its breathing had stabilized a bit, which gave him hope. Still, the wounds needed proper treatment, the kind that required tools he didn't have in the forest. He quietly packed up a few items and walked a short distance to meet the rangers, who were bringing water and basic supplies. They were surprised to see him looking calm after a full night beside the beast. He explained that he needed more equipment, including medication and stitching tools. The rangers agreed to escort him back to his vehicle, but one of them asked softly if it was safe to come near the creature. The vet reassured them that as long as they moved slowly and stayed calm, the beast wouldn't react. It was too tired to cause harm, and it seemed to understand he was trying to help Dot before leaving to get the supplies. The vet looked back at the creature. Its eyes were open, watching him. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. There was something in its gaze, a quiet plea, a silent request not to abandon it. The vet nodded gently, almost like giving a promise, then walked away. A few hours later, he returned with a larger medical bag and extra blankets. The forest felt colder that morning, so he knew the creature needed warmth as well. The rangers helped him set up a simple shelter using thick canvas and sturdy branches. It wasn't perfect, but it gave shade, protection, and enough space for the vet to move around while treating the animal. Once everything was ready, he knelt beside the injured creature again. Its fur felt rough yet thick beneath his hands, and he could see bits of dried mud and leaves stuck to its body. He spoke in his calm voice, explaining what he was about to do. Even though he knew words were not what mattered, the tone was not to begin. He needed to examine each wound carefully. Some areas were swollen, and others looked deeply irritated from dirt. But he stayed patient. He cleaned around the injuries slowly, using warm water to soften the dirt. At first, the creature tensed, sucking in a sharp breath like it expected pain. But when it realized the vet's hands were gentle, its body loosened again. Every few minutes, the vet glanced at the creature's face. The eyes followed his movements, not with anger, but with an unusual kind of awareness. It was as if the creature was trying to understand every action, every touch. This made the vet even more careful. He didn't want to break the fragile trust that was forming. After cleaning the wounds, he prepared the stitching tools. This part would take time and effort. The creature might react, but he hoped it would stay calm the same way it had the day before. Before starting, he rested a hand near the creature's shoulder, letting it feel his presence. The creature gave a slow blink, almost like an approval dot, as he began stitching the deeper wounds. The creature let out a low sound, not angry, not threatening, just a sound of discomfort. The vet spoke softly, telling it to stay strong, telling it he was doing his best to help. Surprisingly, the creature listened. Although its muscles tightened now and then, it did not attempt to pull away. The rangers, standing a few meters back, watched in disbelief. They whispered to each other, amazed at how calm the beast remained. Some had heard stories from older villagers who claimed the mountain beast didn't let anyone get close. Yet here, right in front of them, a human was touching it, treating it, even stitching its wounds, and the creature accepted it willingly. After hours of work, the vet finally finished. He wiped sweat from his forehead and exhaled in relief. The creature's injuries were cleaned, stitched, and wrapped, and for the first time, it looked like it had a true chance of surviving. The vet moved back to give it space, but before he could stand up fully, something unexpected happened. The creature shifted slightly and touched its nose gently against the back of his hand. It wasn't a push or a warning. It felt more like a small gesture acknowledgement, maybe even gratitude. The vet froze, stunned by the moment. He had treated wild animals all his life, but none had ever shown anything like this. The rangers gasped softly, witnessing something that almost didn't feel real. Trying not to startle the creature, the vet stayed still and allowed the moment to pass naturally. When the creature lowered its head again, he slowly moved away and let it rest. He knew it needed strength to recover, and rest was the only thing that could help now. The rest of the day was spent making the shelter more secure. The rangers brought extra wood, and the vet helped set up a small fire nearby, not too close to scare the creature, but close enough to keep the area warm during the night. While working, they talked about how rare this situation was. Some of them even wondered if the creature understood more than a normal animal could. The vet didn't make any bold claims, but he admitted there was something unusually intelligent in the beast's eyes. Throughout the day, he checked on the creature regularly. Sometimes its eyes were closed in sleep, and sometimes it watched him with quiet focus. Every time he approached, he made sure to move slowly and speak gently. The trust they had built was delicate, and he didn't want anything to break it. As evening approached, the forest grew cooler. Shadows stretched across the ground, and the sky turned softer in color. The vet sat near the shelter, close enough to listen to the creature breathe, but far enough to give it space. He wrapped himself in a blanket and thought about how his life had suddenly changed within just a day. He had always believed in helping animals, no matter how big or dangerous they were, but he never imagined he would be treating a legendary creature that most people were scared to even talk about. And now that he had seen the beast up close, its pain, its vulnerability, and its surprising gentleness, he felt even more determined to protect it. The creature, still recovering, opened its eyes briefly. It watched the vet sitting in the dim light. There was something soft in its expression, something almost peaceful. The vet smiled slightly, feeling a connection he couldn't easily explain. It was strange how quickly this massive, feared beast had become something he cared deeply about. He sat quietly, listening to the steady breaths coming from the shelter. Even the forest felt calmer, almost like it understood that something unusual and important was happening here. The wind was gentle, the trees stood still, and the night settled softly around them. The vet stayed awake longer than he planned, just observing the creature and making sure it was comfortable. He felt tired, but not in a bad way. It was the kind of tiredness that came with purpose, like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. As the night grew deeper, he knew one thing for certain. This creature was fighting to survive, and he would fight with it. Whatever challenges came next, he wasn't going to step back. Not now, not after seeing the trust in those calm eyes. This was more than just treating an animal. This was the beginning of something far stronger, a bond that neither the vet nor the beast had expected. And as the forest settled into silence, the story between them continued to grow. Begins the following morning, when the forest was still quiet and covered with a soft layer of early mist. The vet woke up with a slight stiffness in his back after spending another night near the shelter. He sat up slowly, rubbed his eyes, and looked toward the creature. The beast was lying exactly where he left it, breathing in a steady rhythm that almost sounded like a slow, peaceful hum. That alone was a good sign. The day before, its breathing had been heavy and uneven, but now it seemed calmer. He walked closer, careful not to make sudden movements. As he approached, the creature opened its eyes, not fully, but just enough to check who was coming toward it. When it recognized him, its eyes softened. It didn't tense up or try to pull away. It simply watched him with a quiet awareness that was becoming strangely familiar. The vet smiled a little. "Good morning," he said softly, even though he knew the creature couldn't reply. Still, he believed the tone mattered, and the creature's calm reaction proved he wasn't wrong. He checked the bandages first. Some of them needed to be changed, but that was normal after a night of healing. He unwrapped them slowly, talking gently so the creature knew what was happening. Each time he touched the injured areas, the beast let out a soft breath, but remained still, trusting him completely. It was still weak, its muscles trembled now and then, and its eyes were heavy, but there was something new in its posture. A quiet confidence, almost like it knew it was being cared for. When he finished cleaning the wounds, he stepped back and let the creature rest. The sunlight was slowly starting to warm the forest, and a soft breeze brushed through the shelter. The beast closed its eyes, relaxing again. The vet walked to the river nearby to wash his hands. The water was cold but refreshing. While he washed, he kept thinking about the bond forming between them. He had treated hundreds of animals in his career, but this felt different. The creature wasn't just letting him help, it was responding in a way that almost felt emotional. After some time, he returned to the shelter with fresh water and a small bowl of soft food he had prepared. The beast watched him with half-open eyes. He placed the bowl near its mouth and waited. At first, the creature didn't move. The vet thought maybe it was still too weak, but then the beast lifted its head slightly, a small but important effort, and sniffed the food. He whispered softly, encouraging it to eat. The creature hesitated for a moment, then slowly began to eat. The vet felt a wave of relief wash over him. Eating meant strength. Eating meant the creature had not given up. Rangers who visited earlier had shared their doubts, saying the beast might refuse food in stress or fear. But now, watching it take careful bites, the vet knew this was a turning point. While the creature ate, the vet sat on a log a few feet away, giving it space but staying close enough to offer comfort. The forest around them seemed unusually peaceful. Even the birds stayed quiet, almost as if they sensed something special happening. After finishing the meal, the creature lowered its head again. Its eyes drifted to the vet, and for a moment, there was something gentle in its gaze, something that went beyond simple survival. It felt like gratitude, silent, but powerful. Later in the afternoon, while the vet checked supplies and prepared more water, he heard a sound behind him. Not a threatening sound more, like a clumsy shift. He turned quickly and saw the creature attempting to move. Its front legs trembled as it tried to push itself up. Its body shook with effort. The vet hurried over. "Easy, easy," he whispered. He didn't touch the creature right away. He let it find its balance first. After a few seconds, the beast managed to lift itself halfway, leaning gently to one side. It wasn't standing, but it was trying. That alone was incredible progress. The creature looked tired from the effort, but not discouraged. Its eyes met the vet's again, and this time they held something new: determination. "You're strong," the vet whispered with a small smile. "Just take your time." The creature lowered itself slowly back onto the ground. The movement was awkward and shaky, but it was smooth enough to show that healing had truly begun. A short while later, the vet was sitting by the shelter, organizing a few tools, when he heard another unexpected sound, a low, soft rumble. He froze for a second, then turned toward the beast. The creature was lying with its head slightly raised, looking directly at him. And that soft rumble, it wasn't anger, and it wasn't a warning. It sounded almost like an attempt to communicate, a quiet expression of comfort or reassurance. The vet didn't respond with excitement. He just sat calmly, letting the moment happen naturally. But inside, he felt something shift. That sound wasn't random. It was intentional. Over the next few hours, he stayed near the creature, keeping its surroundings calm. Sometimes the beast dozed off. Other times it watched the vet intently. Whenever he moved, its eyes followed him. Not in fear, not in suspicion, but with genuine interest, as if it wanted to understand every small action he made. Later, while the vet was warming water near the small fire, he accidentally slipped on a loose stone. His foot twisted, and he fell forward, catching himself on the ground with both hands. It wasn't a serious fall, but the sound startled the creature. Immediately, the beast lifted its head sharply, eyes wide and alert. But instead of reacting with aggression, it tried to push itself up again, as if ready to help. The vet quickly turned and reassured it. "I'm okay," he said, breathless but calm. "I'm fine." The creature lowered its head again, but continued staring at him for several long seconds, almost like it wanted to confirm he was telling the truth. That small action touched the vet more deeply than he expected. Animals usually reacted to sudden movements out of instinct. But this reaction wasn't instinct, it was concern. Real concern. He sat down near the creature after that, keeping his movements slow. The beast watched him with a soft gaze, the kind that didn't need any words. As the day turned into evening, the vet could feel the connection between them growing stronger. Trust was no longer just a possibility. It was real now, solid and steady. The creature didn't flinch when he approached. It didn't tense when he touched its fur gently. It stayed calm, accepting the care like it understood the intention behind every action. In the quiet hours before sunset, the vet sat beside the shelter, drinking warm tea from a metal cup. The creature rested peacefully, occasionally opening one eye to check whether he was still there. Each time they made eye contact, the beast blinked slowly, a sign of comfort and acceptance. The vet smiled softly. He didn't need to talk. The silence between them was meaningful. Night settled over the forest. The stars appeared one by one, shining through the gaps between tall trees. A light breeze moved through the branches, making soft whispers in the leaves. The creature shifted slightly, curling into a more comfortable position. The vet placed another blanket near it, just in case the night grew colder. He sat back down, feeling the peaceful rhythm of the forest and the steady breathing of the creature. It was strange how something that was once feared by everyone was now lying quietly beside him like an injured guardian. There was no tension, no threat, only a growing sense of connection. The vet didn't know what the next days would bring. He didn't know whether the creature would make a full recovery or if danger would find them again. But at that moment, none of that mattered. The only thing that mattered was the trust glowing gently between them. Unexpected, unplanned, a real. And as the night deepened, the vet realized something simple yet powerful. This creature wasn't just healing from its wounds, it was learning to feel safe with him. The following morning, when the air felt cooler than usual and the forest seemed unusually quiet, the vet woke up before sunrise, his body still tired, but his mind alert. The first thing he did, before stretching or drinking water, was look toward the creature. The massive wolf-like beast was awake, its eyes open and focused on him. There was no fear in its stare now, no hesitation. Instead, there was calmness, and something that felt almost warm. The vet smiled softly, walking closer with slow steps. The creature shifted slightly, but not out of worry. Its movements were steadier, now not fully strong yet, but far better than the first night. The improvement gave the vet a small burst of hope. He knelt down at a comfortable distance and spoke in a gentle voice. "Good to see you awake." The creature's ears moved slightly, reacting to the tone. The vet reached out with one hand, palm facing upward, giving the beast a choice. It sniffed the air, then slowly lowered its head, resting it near his hand. The gesture was quiet but powerful. It felt like trust, like acceptance, and maybe even appreciation. After checking the bandages and replacing a few that were loosened, the vet prepared a simple bath using warm water. He wanted to clean more of the dirt and dried mud from the creature's thick fur. He moved slowly, making sure not to disturb its healing wounds. The creature stayed calm throughout, lowering its head when the vet gently washed around the injured areas. Each careful touch showed the creature's growing comfort around him. Not by the time he finished, the sun was rising through the trees, casting a soft golden light over the forest floor. The creature looked cleaner now, its natural colors more visible beneath the layers of dirt it had been carrying for who knows how long. Even its eyes looked brighter, clearer. The vet took a seat on a nearby log to rest for a moment. The creature watched him with quiet curiosity. Every small movement he made seemed to catch its attention, not in suspicion, but in interest, almost like it was studying him the way humans observe animals. A few minutes later, the distant sound of footsteps echoed cautiously through the woods. The rangers had returned with extra supplies. When they saw the creature awake and alert, they froze. One of them whispered, "It looks stronger today." The vet nodded. "It's responding well to the treatment." Even with the rangers nearby, the creature didn't panic. It kept its eyes mostly on the vet, sensing safety in his presence. The rangers placed the supplies down slowly, avoiding noises that might startle the animal. The vet thanked them, and after exchanging a few updates, the rangers left again to check the surrounding area. With more supplies available, the vet prepared another meal. This time he made it slightly thicker, hoping the creature would eat more to regain strength. When he set the food down, the creature lowered its head and ate with more enthusiasm than the day before. Seeing this progress filled the vet with quiet joy. Every little step mattered. After eating, the creature rested again. Its breathing was stronger now, and its muscles didn't tremble as much when it shifted its weight. The vet decided it was a good time to start encouraging gentle movement. He didn't want the creature to force itself too soon, but small exercises could help rebuild its strength. He moved his hand in slow motions, guiding the creature to follow with its eyes. Then he tapped the ground lightly in different spots, trying to encourage small stretches. The creature did exactly that: subtle stretches, tiny movements of its front legs, slow shifts in position. Each movement was careful, but purposeful. It was clear that the creature wanted to heal, wanted to get back on its feet. Later in the afternoon, something unexpected happened. The vet stepped away for a moment to organize medications, and when he turned back, he saw the creature attempting to stand. It pressed its front legs against the ground, testing its strength. Its muscles shook, and the effort was intense, but it pushed through. Slowly, the creature lifted itself onto its elbows. The vet immediately moved closer, not to stop it, but to support it. "You can do it," he whispered softly. The creature's breathing grew heavier from the effort, but it didn't give up. With one final push, it managed to rise halfway, standing on its front legs, while its back legs remained folded beneath it. The vet couldn't help exhaling a soft gasp. It was the most progress the creature had made so far. The beast turned its head slightly, looking at him, not proud, not scared, but seeking reassurance. The vet nodded, smiling with genuine happiness. "That's amazing. You're getting stronger." After a few seconds, the creature slowly lowered itself back to the ground. The movement was clumsy, but controlled, not like the helpless collapse of the first night. The vet gently placed a blanket near its side, and the creature rested its head on it, almost as if choosing comfort for the first time. The forest around them grew calm as the afternoon turned into evening. The vet decided to check the creature's temperature and heart rate one more time. Everything showed improvement. It wasn't out of danger yet, but the worst seemed behind them. Later, while the vet sat quietly near the shelter, he began noting down observations in a small notebook. He recorded the creature's breathing patterns, eating habits, muscle responses, and behavior. He wasn't doing this for fame or scientific attention. This was simply his habit. He liked understanding the animals he treated, and this creature, more than any other, deserved that careful attention. While he wrote, he suddenly felt a shift in the air. He looked up to see the creature staring at him with an intensity he hadn't seen before. It wasn't an aggressive stare. If anything, it felt thoughtful, almost like the beast was observing him the same way he had been observing it. The creature lowered its head slightly and made a soft rumbling sound, a gentle one, like a quiet greeting. The vet put down his notebook, taken by surprise. He walked slowly to the creature and sat cross-legged a few feet away. The beast watched him. After a moment, The creature did something it had never done before. It stretched its neck forward and rested its head gently near the vet's knee, not touching him completely, but close enough to show trust, closeness, and a strange kind of comfort. The vet stayed still, allowing the creature to choose the moment. Then, very softly, he placed his hand on its head, running his fingers through its thick fur. The creature closed its eyes, as if the touch brought relief. For the first time since he found it, the creature looked at peace. Night settled in slowly. The vet built a small fire to keep them warm. The flames glowed softly, casting a faint orange light over the forest. The creature watched the flames, its eyes reflecting the warm colors. It seemed calmer, more connected to its surroundings. At one point, the creature lifted its head and looked toward the sky. The vet followed its gaze. Through the branches, stars sparkled against the dark sky. For a long moment, both man and creature simply watched the night quietly. No sound, no movement, no fear, just a strange, beautiful silence between them. The vet felt something deep in his chest, a sense of responsibility, but also something more emotional. This creature wasn't just a patient anymore. It was becoming a companion in this strange journey. They were learning from each other, trusting each other, and forming a bond that felt rare, maybe even one dash of dash a dash kind. As the fire crackled softly, the creature shifted again, inching slightly closer to where the vet sat. Its presence was so large, so powerful, yet its movements were soft, almost respectful. The vet smiled again, whispering, "You're not alone anymore." The creature blinked slowly, as if agreeing, and there, under the quiet night sky, something unspoken settled between them, something stronger than fear and deeper than simple care. A connection that neither of them had expected when this journey began. With a calm morning, the kind of morning when the air feels fresh and the world seems quiet after weeks of trouble, the vet had finally returned to normal life, or at least tried to. Even though the forest looked peaceful, a part of his mind still replayed the tense days when the hunters came searching for the injured wolf beast. For many nights after that, he had trouble sleeping. Every sudden sound in the forest, every crack of a branch outside, made him sit up and check his surroundings. He knew the creature was out there somewhere, trying to recover on its own, and he secretly hoped it had survived. As days turned into weeks, the memory of that huge creature limping away into the deep forest stayed in his heart. He had helped wild animals his entire life, but nothing had ever felt like this. The bond he shared with that wolf beast was strange but real. It wasn't like a pet who trusted its owner. It was something different, something deeper. It was respect. The creature had trusted him enough to let him touch its wounds, treat its pain, and even guide it out when danger came close. He didn't speak its language, and it didn't speak his, but somehow they understood each other. One morning, the vet woke up a bit earlier than usual. The sky had a soft gray color, the type that appears before sunrise. He made a warm drink and stepped outside his cabin to breathe the cool forest air. The trees around him stood tall and silent, their leaves barely moving. It felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. As he walked toward the small shed where he stored medical supplies, he noticed something strange on the ground. There were marks in the soil. Not the usual deer or boar tracks he often saw. These were much larger, much deeper, and spaced wider apart. His eyes widened as he leaned down. The paw prints were fresh, pressed cleanly into the damp earth. He had seen these prints before, exactly the same shape, the same massive size. His heart jumped. He whispered softly to himself, "It came here?" He slowly stood up, his senses alert. But nothing moved. Nothing rustled. The forest was still. He followed the tracks around the cabin. They circled the building, not once but twice, as if the creature had been checking the area carefully. The prints were clear enough to tell that the wolf beast had been here maybe just a few hours earlier, possibly during the night while he slept. The vet felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. If the creature had returned, it meant two things. It survived, and it remembered him. As he traced the final prints, he reached the edge of the trees. The shadows between the tall trunks were thick, and the deeper parts of the forest looked almost black. He scanned the area slowly. For a moment, he saw nothing but darkness. Then he froze. Something large stood behind the trees. A shape, a movement. He could feel its presence before he could see it clearly. Then the creature stepped forward, slowly and quietly, almost as if it didn't want to frighten him. And there it was, the same massive wolf beast he had treated. But now it looked different, stronger. Its fur was cleaner, thicker. The wounds on its body had healed, and though a few scars remained, they only made it look more powerful. Its golden eyes were calm, not wild or aggressive. The wolf beast was taller than before, standing with full strength now. The vet's breath caught. For a moment, both of them simply looked at each other, not moving, not speaking. But the silence was full of meaning. The creature took another step forward. In its jaws, it carried something shiny, something smooth and glowing faintly even in the weak morning light. The vet didn't move. He just waited, letting the creature approach at its own pace. The massive wolf beast lowered its head slowly, placing the glowing object at the vet's feet. Then it stepped back, watching him with steady eyes. The vet glanced down. It wasn't an ordinary stone. It was a rare gem-like rock, the kind locals believed came from the deepest parts of the mountains. People in nearby villages often talked about them as forest gifts, things that only appeared in places untouched by humans. Some even believed they carried good fortune or protection. But they were extremely rare. Most people lived their whole lives without seeing one. He gently picked it up. It felt warm in his hand, almost alive. The moment he touched it, the creature let out a slow, deep breath, a sound that almost felt like relief. The vet looked back at the wolf beast, his eyes soft. "This is from you?" he whispered, even though he knew the creature couldn't answer with words. But the beast did answer in its own way. It lifted its head with a calm, steady gaze. There was no fear in its eyes, no pain, only respect. Deep, wordless respect. It looked at him the same way it did during the days he cared for it, the same trust in its eyes. The vet felt something warm build up in his chest. It wasn't just gratitude for the strange gift. It was the understanding that this creature, feared by so many, had come all the way back just to thank him. It remembered the person who saved its life. It understood kindness, and it wanted to return that kindness in the only way it knew. The massive wolf beast stood there for a moment longer. Then it slowly turned its head toward the forest. The vet watched as the creature's huge body moved through the trees with silent grace. Before disappearing completely into the shadows, the beast paused and looked back one last time. Their eyes met again, sharing a moment that no one else would ever truly understand. After a few seconds, the wolf beast walked deeper into the forest, slipping between the trees until its shape vanished and the forest became quiet again. The vet stood still for a long time, holding the glowing stone in his hand, trying to take in what had just happened. He knew the creature would not return again. This was its final goodbye. But that was enough. He walked back to his cabin slowly, feeling a mix of peace and wonder. Inside, he placed the stone on a small wooden shelf where he kept items that mattered to him. The first collar he ever used on a rescued dog, a feather from an injured eagle he once saved, an old compass from his first trip into the mountains. But this glowing stone felt different, special. It wasn't just a memory. It was a symbol of something almost unbelievable, a connection between a human and a creature most people feared. For the rest of the day, he kept thinking about the beast, about how it survived on its own, about how it healed enough to walk such a long distance, and about how it chose to come all the way back just to leave a part of itself behind. The vet knew that many people would never believe his story. They would say it sounded impossible. But he didn't need to prove anything. The prints outside his cabin and the glowing stone were proof enough for him not. As the day slowly turned into night, he sat outside on his small wooden chair and looked at the forest again. The moonlight touched the leaves gently. The forest seemed alive in its calm way, like it was keeping secrets that humans would never fully understand. He felt grateful, not only for the gift, but also for the experience. Not everyone gets to be trusted by such a wild and powerful creature. Not everyone gets to save a life that big. And not everyone receives a gift that carries the weight of gratitude from a beast of the mountains. Years later, he still kept the stone safe. And every time he looked at it, he remembered the incredible moment when the wild and the human world crossed in the most unexpected way. He remembered the golden eyes, the slow, heavy steps, and the way the creature looked back before disappearing forever. And he knew one thing for certain: kindness, even when given to the most dangerous creature, never goes unnoticed. Sometimes it returns in ways no one can predict.